It was a quiet Friday night in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was house-sitting for my parents while they were away for the weekend in Traverse City. Their house has always felt safe to me, familiar, cozy, the kind of place where you know every sound. Snow was coming down steadily outside, and the whole neighborhood felt still. No pets, no siblings, no one else. Just me. I was curled up on the couch under a blanket, half watching something forgettable on Netflix, not really paying attention. Around 11:30, I got up to make some popcorn, thinking it would be the perfect end to a lazy evening. But when I came back to the living room, something stopped me cold. The blanket I'd been wrapped in wasn't on the couch anymore. It was folded. Perfectly. Sitting neatly on the armrest. I just stood there, staring at it. I hadn't done that. I was sure of it. I stared at the folded blanket for a few seconds, confused. I was sure I'd left it in a crumpled pile on the couch. Maybe I folded it without thinking? I brushed it off, trying to laugh at myself, and sat back down. About 20 minutes later, I paused the show and headed upstairs to use the bathroom. That's when something else felt off. The bathroom door was already open. I always keep it closed. Still, I told myself it was nothing. But when I stepped inside, the toilet seat was up. I don't leave it that way, ever. I live alone. I hadn't used that bathroom all day. A chill crawled down my spine. Something wasn't right. Uneasy now, I walked through the house, turning off lights and checking every lock. Front door, back, windows, everything was shut tight. I tried to shake the feeling and went back to the living room. Just as I sat down, the TV volume suddenly dropped by half. The remote was still lying on the couch next to me. Before I could process that, I heard the fridge beep twice, like someone had just opened and closed it. I stood up, heart pounding, and walked into the kitchen. No one there, but on the counter, I saw something that made my stomach drop. My phone. It had been charging in the bedroom. No missed calls, no messages, just moved. I hadn't brought it down, and now I was officially scared. I called a friend in Detroit, trying to sound calm. They told me it was probably nothing. Maybe I was just overtired. I kept them on the line as I walked around the house, turning on every light I passed. When I stepped back into the kitchen, I stopped cold. One of the wooden dining chairs was pulled out from the table, like someone had just sat there. I hadn't touched it. I whispered what I saw, and my friend, now clearly uneasy, told me to check outside, just to be sure. I peeked through the front window. Fresh snow covered the ground, perfectly undisturbed. No footprints, no tracks. But when I turned around, the hallway light upstairs was on. I hadn't gone up there since earlier. That was it. I couldn't stay in the house any longer. I grabbed my coat, keys, and phone and headed straight to my car. The cold air felt sharp against my face, but I didn't care. As I backed out of the driveway, something caught my eye. I glanced up at the second-floor bedroom window. The curtain moved. Just slightly, like someone had brushed past it. I slammed on the brakes. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the security camera app my dad had set up in the upstairs hallway. At first, the feed was black. I waited. Just as I was about to close the app, it flickered on for 1 second. A figure stood in the hallway, still, watching. Then the feed went dark again. My name's Ethan. I'm 17, and last weekend my parents left for Indiana to visit my uncle. I stayed home alone. No big deal, I've done it before. It was quiet, peaceful even. Typical Friday night. I played some games, ate leftover pizza, and made sure all the doors were locked. I always double-checked the back slider. That thing never closes right. Before bed, I placed my phone and keys on my nightstand, like always. Everything felt normal, safe. I even left my bedroom door slightly open, the way I like it. I fell asleep around midnight without a second thought. But looking back, that was the last moment the house felt like it was mine. The next morning, I woke up feeling off. Not scared, just unsettled. I reached for my phone, but it wasn't on the nightstand. Confused, I walked out and found it sitting on the kitchen counter. I didn't remember bringing it there. Weird, but maybe I was half asleep last night. I poured cereal, glanced at the microwave clock. Its clock was flashing like the power had gone out. Thing is, the oven and hallway clocks were fine, only the microwave reset. I stood there for a second, thinking maybe there was a glitch or surge. Still, I shook it off. Probably nothing. I told myself I was just tired, but the feeling stuck, like the house had shifted, just slightly. That night, I was halfway through a movie when I heard a soft thump upstairs. Not loud, just enough to freeze me. I paused the TV, waited. Nothing else. I went up to check. Everything looked normal, until I walked into my room. My desk lamp, which always sits on the left, was now on the right. Cord stretched awkwardly like it had been yanked. I hadn't touched it. I told myself I must have bumped it earlier. I went to bed uneasy. Around 3:12, I woke up suddenly. No noise, just alert. My closet door was wide open. I always close it. My keys? No longer on the nightstand. I found them in front of the door. The next night, I decided to prove to myself I wasn't losing it. I set up my phone to record the hallway and my bedroom. The next morning, I nervously checked the footage. At around 2:50, the closet door slowly creaked open all by itself. No wind, no one around, just the door inching open. Then, a few seconds later, my desk lamp flickered, like someone was messing with it. No shadows, no figures, just the objects moving on their own, slow and deliberate. Watching it made my skin crawl. Something was definitely here, but I couldn't see it. Just these small disturbances, like the house itself was alive and trying to tell me something. When my parents came back Sunday evening, I told them everything. The phone moving, the door opening, the lamp flickering. My dad just laughed it off, saying I was imagining things or stressed. Mom seemed worried but didn't say much. That night, while unpacking, Mom found her jewelry box wide open. Every ring was taken out and lined up perfectly across the dresser. She looked at me and asked if I'd done it. I didn't say a word. I just shook my head. The silence hung heavy between us. Whatever was in the house wasn't done yet, and neither was the nightmare. Cut to black. I was staying alone at my parents' place in Naperville for the weekend, a quiet suburb just outside Chicago. They'd gone to visit my aunt in Milwaukee, and I figured I'd enjoy some peace while catching up on assignments. The house, built in the 1963, has that old Midwest charm, creaky wood floors, drafty windows, and all the quirks that come with age. It always felt a little eerie when I was alone, but I told myself it was just character. Outside, the sky was heavy with clouds, and local alerts warned of a snowstorm rolling in. By 6 p.m., the temperature had dropped sharply, and the roads were already starting to glaze over. It was the kind of night meant for staying in and locking up tight. Around 9 p.m., while scrolling through my phone in the living room, I suddenly heard the sharp jingle of keys from the entryway. It was quick, like someone had flicked them with a finger. I froze for a second, listening. The heat had just kicked on, so I figured maybe it was the vibration or some air pressure shifting things. Still, it felt off. I got up and walked over to the door. The keys were swaying slightly on the hook, but nothing else seemed out of place. I checked the deadbolt. It was locked tight. I even tugged the handle just to be sure. Old house, I muttered, trying to brush it off, but I couldn't shake that weird tension in my chest. Around 10 p.m., just as I settled into an episode of The Office, a loud clink shattered the quiet, like a plate hitting the kitchen floor. My stomach dropped. I walked in cautiously and found one of the ceramic dinner plates lying face up on the tiles, completely intact. Above it, the cabinet door stood wide open. I had done the dishes earlier and remembered closing that exact cabinet. Twice, actually, because it sticks a little. I looked around in silence. No broken glass, no signs of anything falling. I checked the back door. Still locked. The windows were shut tight, no drafts. Old house, I whispered again, but this time it didn't feel like an answer. It felt like an excuse I needed to believe. Around midnight, I went upstairs to grab my charger from my bedroom. As I passed my parents' room, I heard the slow, unmistakable creak of a drawer sliding open. I hesitated, then pushed the door open. One of my dad's dresser drawers was slightly pulled out, and a small metal box, his old coin collection, was nudged right to the edge, like it had been pushed. I didn't touch anything. As I turned to head back to my room, my door suddenly slammed shut behind me, hard enough to make the floorboards tremble. I rushed over and yanked it open. The windows were all closed, and I could hear the furnace humming. It had just kicked on. Maybe it was pressure. Maybe, but I wasn't convinced. Still shaken, I finally texted my dad about the weird noises. He replied almost instantly. Bow straw always slides open when it's dry inside, house shifts a bit, keys jingle too, your uncle thought we had a ghost once. I exhaled, feeling a little silly. The next morning, I checked the kitchen cabinet again. Turns out the hinge was loose, just enough to pop open if it wasn't firmly shut. In the front door, I had forgotten to bolt the top latch. It was slightly ajar, probably from the wind rattling it all night. When I told my friend about everything, we laughed it off, but even with all the explanations, I couldn't shake the feeling I had all night.